Kashmir is stunning. But in Srinagar, there are more soldiers with submachine guns than there are tourists. I talked to Deepkimsingh about this and other tales of the unexpected. Welcome to the Nifty Travel Podcast.
Thank you, Alex, for considering me possible guest. I'm flattered and honored.
No, you're most welcome. And the thing I always like to ask guests first is about your earliest memories of travel.
Yeah, I think I was five when my parents relocated from Punjab to Bombay. It's now called Mumbai. And the only thing I remember of that journey by train were the strawberries that my parents, my mom, brought along. I have no other recollection of that journey except for the strawberries.
Wow. Very well. Our senses are incredibly strong, aren't they? Particularly when we are young. I remember going abroad, not being able to speak to anybody in Europe, um, but I remember the smells and the taste of the food. It sounds like
Yeah.
you had a similar experience.
So, and then I was born in India. I did not leave India till 83, 1983. And that year I traveled quite a bit. I went to London, I went to Singapore, I went to Bangkok. Uh, and so that was, I think, my second international trip. I, of course, had been traveling within India as a youth uh, throughout my childhood and teenage years. My parents, we would live in Bombay, and then every summer, my parents would get rid of my brother and I and pack us off to Delhi in the north. And unfortunately, those were the warmest, hottest months in India. And so, then if you would come back, Bombay has a very lovely weather throughout the year. It never goes below 20 degrees and never goes above 35. And I've been in London when it was -2, and in Oregon in the US when I relocated to the US. I grew up in Mumbai, right, where you walk around with regular shoes, uh, and were the shoes that I wore in 6 feet of snow in Oregon, and I would travel by bus from my house in Oregon to downtown Portland, come back, and I had a mustache. Then every macho, sensible Indian male has to have a mustache. If you don't have a mustache, you are considered gay. So, so I would return home in Portland with my mustache after walking through snow, and my mustache would be frozen. I literally had to boil hot water and pour it on my mustache when I got back, just to thaw it.
Clearly, India is a country of contrasts. Perhaps you would say that it is many countries all wrapped into one. Um, how did India leave an impression on you as a young person?
Most of my life in India, I have lived only in Bombay. Okay, and I insist on calling it Bombay and not Mumbai because Mumbai is what the name the fascists, uh, Hindutva fascists, renamed Bombay uh, just because of their fascism. And the biggest train station in Bombay was called Victoria Terminus, named after the lady, and it's now called. You're going to brace yourself for this. Chhatrapati Shivaji, whatever terminus. So it's called CSMT. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus. So Shivaji was a Indian leader from this area. So most of my life, in India. I lived in Bombay, and I lived 3 years in Bangalore, where I did my engineering. And Bangalore was beautiful. It will get away from Bombay. Bombay is like New York, London, big, nasty, crowded city. And luckily, I live in a part of Bombay that's known as New Bombay, where you get none of the pollution and the traffic and the congestion of Bombay. This city was built as a planned city 30, 40 years ago, and my parents moved here from Bombay. So, here we get fresh air and whatnot. Unlike Delhi is the most polluted city in the world, and Delhi was where I was born. Bombay is much better, but I still use an air purifier, not because the air is unhealthy, but because I get nasal congestion if there's too much of dust in the air. So I recently acquired an air purifier. Anyway, so India is a. I have gone around India, and I feel guilty that I've traveled so much abroad and not enough within India, because India is an amazing culture. But uh, I know I should say this, but Indians drive me nuts. I think there's that phrase in English called familiarity breeds contempt, right? So I'm not contemptuous of Indians. It's just that traveling is such a pain, within India. Uh, the people, the jostling, the noises. Uh, Even if you're traveling by plane, airports are a mess. Just congestion. I must tell you this story of what happened in an Indian airport. I used to fly from home to Bangalore every semester and back by plane. And I have a sweet tooth. So I had bought this sweet curd called Mishti Doi from my favorite Bengali sweet shop in Bangalore. And then I took it back by plane home for my mother. And you go through security check and whatnot. So as I was about to get on the plane, I suddenly remembered that I was missing my Mishti Doi, my sweet curd. So I rushed back to the security check-in area, and there were six armed security men surrounding my Mishti Doi. And I said, "That's mine, that's mine." So they said, "What is it?" It's just dahi. It's curd. How do we know? So I opened the sealed package and put my finger in and tasted it. And I said, "It's really good. Do you want to have some?" And they let me go. So anyway, so that was one. I have so many travel stories. But getting back to India, so I've not been to Benares. I've been to Kashmir several times, and unfortunately, it's a beautiful part of India. But the Indian government, throughout the years, has ignored it, messed it up. So you see more armed soldiers with machine guns on the streets of Srinagar, capital of Kashmir, than you see tourists. It's one of the least developed parts of India, and I don't want to get into politics in this call because we are going to focus on travel. But Kashmir is beautiful. I've been to Amritsar. I'm a Sikh, though I don't look like it. My father has a turban. My mom is Sikh, but my mom never kept my hair long. She kept my brother's hair till he was 10 or 11. So I've been to Amritsar, but I'm not religious at all. I'm an atheist. In India, they have a religion thrust onto your face, whether it is Hinduism or whatever. So I guess since a child, actually my parents took the decision. My parents would go to the Gurdwara every Sunday, and after we turned 10 or 11, my parents stopped taking us and said that if you want to go to the Gurdwara, you are welcome. We will not stop or encourage you. So I think that was a very balanced attitude. Anyway, so travel. So India is gorgeous. I can spend the rest of my living years only traveling within India and still not cover all of it. Now you know why we have 1.4 billion people. There's no part of India you can go to where you are not encountering crowds. By the way, Bhutan. I must slip in a word about Bhutan. Bhutan is gorgeous. It's just next to India, the north, and I went there once, and it's stunning. The beauty, and what's even more beautiful are the people. But they charge you a whopping tax and fee just to get into the country. If you are an Indian national, I guess you don't pay anything. But I'm a US citizen, a US passport. Uh, so then I had to pay, I think, $250 just to get into Bhutan. That's not including the hotel and whatnot. But another place I should mention is Thailand. I love Thailand. In fact, I'm thinking of relocating to Thailand from India and live in a place called Phuket. Have you been to Thailand, Alex?
I have, yes. Chiang Mai is the place I've been to the most. What do you find attractive about Thailand?
Yeah, no, no. So Phuket, no, Phuket is in Thailand and is south of Bangkok. Bangkok is like Mumbai. It's crowded, nasty, terrible, congested. And Phuket is absolutely divine island, and you got to get away. And then I've been in the U.S. last 20 years, and I'm a U.S. citizen. And the U.S. is a gorgeous, gorgeous, huge country. And again, I've not been all over it. If you can put up one of those diagrams that I sent you, which shows where all I've been around the world, it may be of interest to your viewers. But anyway, US, I've not been to Yosemite, and I want to go there, but I've been all over New York, DC. I lived in New York for a while, but I basically live in the Bay Area, that is San Francisco Bay Area. Uh, for the past 10 years. And before that, for 10 years, I was in LA. And I did my master's in computer science from USC, a lovely college in a terrible neighborhood. But I should live next to UCLA, next to UCLA. So UCLA and USC, if you are not familiar, are a big rivalry like Oxford and Cambridge. So I lived around the UCLA, but I went to school at USC, and USC is known as University of Southern California, but it is better known as University for Spoiled Children because nearly every student on the campus came from a filthy rich family. I was one of the standouts, and I did not have to pay the ridiculous fee. I won a scholarship. They paid for my book, even the gas, petrol for my car, my books, everything. I don't have any formal training in travel. I don't even think they are degrees, but I've done my MS in computer science, my MBA in marketing, but I love travel. In fact, the reason I launched a travel agency more than 25, 30 years ago is because I love to travel. And I take my corporate groups all over the world to London, to Bali, Indonesia. Bali. Bali is beautiful. Have you been to Bali?
No, but I've heard a great deal about it.
Yeah,
I
yeah, you have to. Anyway, am I interrupting your next question?
no, absolutely not. Uh, the beauty of a conversation, Deep, is that we can take it absolutely anywhere. Um, So you've obviously had a lot of professional experience in hotels, IBM, uh, the computer company. Um, what about what about those experiences led you to travel more? Um, and what was meaningful about them at the time? Because I
Okay.
think about yeah, for
Yeah,
instance.
you mentioned IBM, so I have to tell you this anecdote. So IBM has this very strict HR policy that you have to undergo classroom training 30 days in a year. You can't do it online, offline, whatever, remote. You have to be in a classroom 30 days in a year. I don't know whether IBM still has that policy. So we, as IBM staff, even though I was a vice president there, uh, oh wow, they have this course in Paris. Let's take it. Oh, they have this course in Bali. Let's take it because the company would pay for the airfare, hotel, everything. We would pick courses which would be suitable, necessary, and helpful for the projects that we were currently doing, then pick an exotic destination. So that was, and anyway, IBM also stands for I've been moved. It's nothing to do with travel. It's just that they keep reshuffling you within the company. You're director of this lab, and now suddenly you're director of that lab. The company moves you depending on where they need your skills the most. So I traveled quite a bit with IBM, and then I was a partner with EY. That was is also known as Ernst and Young. It was one of the big four. It still is a big one of the big four accounting consulting companies in the world, and so we would have clients all over, and our team would fly to Mexico and Poland and Moscow and different parts of the US and implement uh, the technologies like Oracle at plants like PepsiCo and hotels worldwide. So travel quite a bit with EY and with these big four consulting firms. What they do is you fly out of your home every Sunday night and you fly back every Friday night. So you're traveling quite a bit. And it's very rough on young consultants. That's why they are a big attraction for recent graduates from good schools.
America is a very interesting place. Uh, when you first went to America, did you have an idea of what it would be like, uh, and how was it in reality when?
Okay, so America is one country where nobody who travels to America ever has cultural shock because we grow up in our respective countries, as India or Ukraine or Japan, exposed to so much of American media, movies, that I had no cultural shock when I arrived in America. Even though I arrived when I was 30 years old, uh, everything was exactly what the media had portrayed it to be. Uh, of course, the best thing about America are the people. The people are so nice. But it took me a few years to understand that when an American asks you how you're doing, he or she is not expecting a reply other than fine. He does not want to hear uh, your problems. So so superficially, America is a very nice place, but uh, after 20 years in America, the US is not a country I want to go back to. India is not a country that I want to continue living in. So I have tasted food, and I don't mean food, I mean cultures around the world. And I want to move to Thailand, Taiwan, but Taiwan is going to be taken over by China very soon. So Thailand seems to be the only plausible place I would like to go to, and that to Phuket. So anyway, coming back to the US, and so I grew up in Bombay, which has some of the best public transportation in the world. And even though we had two cars at home, I never learned to drive in India. So when I went to America, I learned to drive in LA. So you got to hear the story, it's funny. So I can't drive. Okay, I signed up with Sears. So they said, we're sending our driving instructor this evening. So I was in my office and the office staff is all there. And then this Chinese American person rang the bell, and my entire office staff, which was entirely white except for me, no, you can't go. You can't go with him. He's Chinese. You know, Chinese in America are considered to be the worst drivers ever. That's again is the racial stereotype. And Americans, white Americans, have racial stereotypes about everybody. And he took me, and I learned to drive with him. And my driving is perfect because I learned from him. And he was Chinese American, not Chinese. Chinese are terrible drivers. Indians are terrible drivers. So when you see an Indian or a Chinese on an American freeway, you literally have to duck. Okay, talking about ducking, you're going to hear this. So I learned to drive in Los Angeles, and I'm driving on the freeways. So in America at that time, if you cut someone off on the freeway, that means you came in his way. They will literally shoot you with a gun that they had in the car. Literally, I'm not kidding. There were quite a few cases of this happening. So, when, so whenever I cut someone off on an American freeway, I would duck, literally duck, because they're expecting a bullet to come through. I know that's sad. It's very sad about the level of gun violence in America. I've just learned to drive in Los Angeles, and my friend arrives from India, and I decided to take him to Disneyland, which was like a 2.5 hour drive. If you went on surface streets, a highway, freeway, you get there in 45 minutes. But I was petrified then of getting on the freeway. So I took him from my hometown in Montebello, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, all the way to Anaheim, where Disneyland is, on surface streets. And that took me 2.5 hours. Anyway, so we went to Disneyland, and then we're coming home. So when I get on the surface street to return back home outside Disneyland, I suddenly realized that all the four lanes of that road led to the freeway. And I didn't want to get on the freeway. So I reversed. And you don't reverse on a road because there's traffic coming behind you. And luckily I did not get rear-ended, and we came back on surface.
But I think you're right, though. If you can learn to drive in in Los Angeles, you can learn to drive anywhere.
The software programmers in US, they're all from India, mainly from India. So we have amazing talent in India. I got to talk a bit about that. Education. Okay, so when I get married, uh, by the way, I'm not married, I'm single. So hello. Uh, I'm, so in India, when you get married, you have your wedding invitation, which will say, by the way, my name is Deep Kim Singh, but I'm known as Kim Singh with my friends. So they'll have your name and all your degrees, educational qualifications on the wedding invitation, and then your partner's name, and then his or her degrees on the wedding invitation. Why? Because in India, we take a lot of pride on our level of education. So my mom's a doctor, my father's an engineer, my father went to Columbia in New York, and there's also a insidious, bad reason why people in India like to get educated is because if I am an engineer and my wife or partner, she has whatever degree she has, her parents have to give my parents money, dowry, just to get her married off. That's why people don't like having daughters. And it gets really bad where as soon as the parents find out through an ultrasonic scan that the fetus is female, they abort the unborn baby. My mom's a gynecologist. Okay. If any of her patients had two kids, she would tell them no. Get your husband sterilized, you get sterilized, have your tubes tied up because you should not have more than two. So in the 70s and 80s, when I was growing up in Bombay, the government of India had a political campaign that we are two and we will have two kids. And what is sad is this is exactly when China was having the one child policy in China. So people in India now have 5 kids, 10 kids, 20 kids. And why do you think we hit 1.4 billion?
Well, I really wanted to get behind your inspiration for beginning Fantasia uh, travels, and how did it start, and how has it developed?
I know I shouldn't admit this, but my being a travel agent gets me phenomenal discounts in very fancy hotels. In fact, the fancier the hotel, I get to literally get free stays like at the Mandarin Oriental in Bangkok and the Shangri-La in the Shard in London. Seriously. Why? Because I give that hotel so much of business. I don't focus on families and honeymooning couples. I only focus on corporate travel. That means we'll take a 30 CXX level executives from Boeing and fly them to Bali. Now, companies like IBM, Boeing, Barclays, they have competitions within the company and they'll say whichever division hits their goals for the year, uh, whoever's number one, we'll fly 100 of your team members to any destination you want in the world. So Boeing would pay for their executives to be flown from Seattle to Bangkok or Seattle to Bali. And so I only focus on corporate travel. One is these corporate executives, they want to stay in the fanciest of hotels because, again, the company is paying for it. So they would stay in the tallest building in Shanghai, the Ritz Carltons, the Four Seasons, Mandarin Orientals, the Taj, the Oberoi. By the way, I was the IT director of the Oberoi chain in India, which also included all the properties around the world. And I'm going to say, embarrassing to say this. Okay, so when you're working in a hotel, it's like a factory. Okay, so Oberoi, we had about 2,500 employees working 3 shifts, and then there would be dorms where the staff could crash if they missed the last train and whatnot. But we, as IT people, IT is computers, we would just have a 9 to 5 shift. We would not have to work nights and whatever. So, of course, after work, I would go and party. And because of my partying, if I missed my last train home, then I could stay in one of the available rooms or whatever. And if the rooms were all full, then they would put me in the executive dormitory. Okay, now you're going to listen to this. It's sad. True. So you see all these people sleeping on the beds, and half the people have their legs up, on the footboard. Why? Because these are the restaurant managers who, poor guys, are standing on their feet, you know, 10, 15 hours a day. Whereas I, as an IT manager, would be sitting on my chair throughout the day. And it's sad. Okay. Uh, but coming back to the travel company. So one is free hotels, discount, but it's also like, by the way, I didn't mention that I'm a photographer, okay, and a passionate photographer. So I do what is known as street photography, and I conduct street photography workshops all over the world, including Venice and Bhutan and London and Thailand. So I take about 25, 30 people to that city, and then I teach them how to do street photography. and that's a real passion of mine. So besides corporate groups, I take these photography groups all over the world, and they don't necessarily. By the way, is my I have two dogs here, and I hope they're not disturbing you.
No, not at all.
Okay, because I rescued stray dogs. I don't believe in pedigree dogs, so this guy uh, is amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, photography workshops. So that to do street photography, you have to know that city inside out. You can't land up as a tourist and just take a few picture postcard photographs and leave. So you have to know about the alleys. You have to know that wow, this is an amazing restaurant, not fancy restaurant, but where you get authentic Muslim food and whatnot. And you have to know all the nuances. You are doing an amazing service, Alex, because most people dread traveling for all the wrong reasons, like airports and missed flights and all that stuff. You have to get out of your comfort zone and get out. Because even now, when I'm in Bombay, uh, I never leave my office or my home unless I have an appointment, a business appointment. And then, of course, I go for my jog and gym and whatnot. But I'm missing out on so much of Bombay, of the places around Bombay that I don't go to because I'm in this comfort zone. So 99% of the people in the world don't travel unless they have to travel on work. And then when I was at IBM and EY, I would travel to that city, live in a fancy hotel, go to the conference room, finish my meetings, and then fly back. So I've been to Cleveland and Chicago and this and that, but never seen the city.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you organise a lot of corporate uh, travel, and you mentioned that you've been to various destinations. You get to stay in nice hotels, go to conferences, and not see a lot of the locations. Do you think that is happening a great deal in the corporate world? That they they get this travel organised, but they don't actually see the true destinations that they're flying into. Is that happening a lot even now?
Yeah, it does, but people go to the Louvre, for example, in Paris, and run, and the coach, the tourist coach is waiting outside. I didn't do that. Neither do my guests do that. And they see the Mona Lisa for 2 seconds and they get out. When I went to Paris for the first time in '83, the 3 days I spent in Paris, I spent 3 days at the Louvre. Seriously, I have never taken a conducted tour ever in my entire life because I like to go at my own pace. I educate myself on the city before I get there. And like when I was in Amsterdam for the first time, I went to the Inks Museum just to see the Van Goghs. I'm a painter and an artist myself, and I love the arts. So, there's this magazine called Time Out. Okay, I'm not a subscriber, not a shareholder, but whichever city I'm going to fly to, I buy a physical copy of that city's timeout a month in advance or 2 months in advance for my going there. And then I mark all the concerts and operas and plays that I want to see. And I buy the tickets uh, in advance. So when I was in London for 11 days and I saw 9 plays and 2 operas and 1 ballet, matinee shows, evening shows. And one more thing, besides being a travel agent, I also write as a journalist, not just on travel. I'm a music critic, theater critic. I sing, I'm a tenor, opera. But don't listen to me, okay? I'm terrible, but so anyway, so journalism. So why do I write? I get free tickets. I have not bought a ticket to a play, an opera, a ballet for the past I don't know, 30 or 40 years. Seriously. So my uncle in London, my mother's brother, when I saw cats, this is like 25, 30 years ago, and I came home, you saw cats! We've been trying to get tickets for cats for the past, I don't know, 20 years. And he has a role. So that means he has money. So he couldn't get tickets for cats, but I saw it. Why? Because I write. And theaters and concert halls, they appreciate reviews, right? And then, of course, I send them my earlier reviews, and they say, "Wow, this guy can write," so they'll give me the free tickets.
So, when you write about travel, what do you like writing about?
I like to write about the food, not just in the fancy hotels. I like to find this very authentic Somalian restaurant, okay, in San Francisco, uh, or this Indian Bangladeshi restaurant in New York, which is not a fancy Michelin 3 star or whatever. No, like I'll go to a Chinese restaurant in San Jose, California, and I'll look around. If nearly everyone in the restaurant is Chinese or Asian, I'll eat there. But if I see too many white faces, I won't eat there. Because then they dilute the cuisine. For example, at my Tokyo office, okay, when I first arrived there, my staff took me to an Indian restaurant in Tokyo, and the food tasted like sushi. If you go to a Chinese restaurant in India, uh, the food has masala and all this nonsense and doesn't taste Chinese at all. So when I went to Hong Kong and I went to a real Chinese authentic hole in the wall restaurant, that's the kind of food that I like to write about. Authentic cuisine, which a traveler would appreciate. One is, of course, they're very, 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 very cheap, inexpensive, but the food is authentic. So authenticity is very important. And I write about, okay, I give them the Kim Singh version of the timeout. This is what you have to see. In this city, you have to head to the Louvre. Of course, head fast to the Louvre because you never know what's going to be left after all the robberies they've had. But I like to give them a flavor of, okay, you only have 2 days, you only have a week. This is the best use of your time. Now, I don't go to ball games. I'm not a sports fan. Okay, so there are a lot of things I will skip. Though I have seen the occasional baseball game and whatnot, but sports is not my cup of tea. Theater, music, dance, art galleries, definitely. Then it's the day of the week. I always advise them to go during non-peak hours, like in Japan. Have you been to Tokyo yourself, Alex?
I've talked to lots of people who've been to Japan.
Okay.
How do you?
Uh,
What was your
I,
impression?
I don't know how tall you are. I'm not very tall. I think maybe 5'10". But in America, I feel very short because everyone's taller than me. So when I go to Japan and I'm in an elevator in Tokyo, I feel really tall. I'm not being racist, but everyone's so polite in Tokyo. In Tokyo, if you get out of Tokyo, which I never have, I've heard that people are not that polite, not that formal as they are in Tokyo. In my office in Tokyo, we have a schedule in the pantry of who makes coffee on which day, and all the names on that schedule are women. So then I asked my secretary, why don't men make coffee? And she said, no, no, no. I had to repeat it 3 times before she understood. And she said, no, no, no. In Japan, men don't make coffee, only women do. The roles are very sexually, gender wise divided.
So I was going to ask. Obviously, you visited many great cities. So when you are looking and deciding what you want to do you follow the crowd, or do you look at the crowd and then go in the opposite direction?
Yeah, the latter. Yeah, I hate crowds. Of course, in Tokyo, I'm even in the subway, I'm towering over everyone. You feel really tall, but Even in Bombay when I travel, if I take a Uber, a cab from point A to point B, it'll take me 3 hours during rush hour. If I travel by train, I'll get there in 45 minutes. I travel first class in the train. People are slightly more decent and they have had a bath. I know it's very elitist what I'm saying, but you have to choose the time of day to travel in a city like Bombay or London or Tokyo.
I was going to ask you about the difference between simply traveling to destinations versus actually living there. Uh, I, just to give you a brief example, I was in Hong Kong because I was working at a sporting event. And before I went to Hong Kong, I used to think London was busy. But after I'd been in Hong Kong, I thought London was just like a country park. you know, um,
Yeah.
it, the,
Hong Kong is lots of people. In fact, it's funny you mentioned Hong Kong because when you started your question, I was going to talk about Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for 6 months before I got that offer to travel to America to marry that girl. So, I mean, if any country has more people than India, it's Hong Kong because they're all compacted in that space. And I used to live in a place called Discovery Bay, where only Guailos are foreigners. Do you know what Guaylo means? Guaylo means white ghost. So you are a white ghost. I'm not. I'm a brown ghost. But Chinese disparagingly refer to the white man, which is, the British ruled there for 200 years, I think 100 years, as Guaylo. And then after Discovery Bay, I moved to McDonald Door in the mid levels. Now, McDonald Door is a road where the British, during their Raj, would not allow any Chinese non-whites to buy property on that road or above. Okay, you could live below McDonald Road. That's how racially divided Hong Kong is, and but the number of people in Hong Kong, wow, it's amazing. So again, because I worked in Hong Kong, I couldn't avoid the rush hour. So typically, what I do in a city where you get out from work at 6 or 7, I would go to a play, a music or concert in that area before, and then head home. So I would beat the rush hour. So you know how much of my friends call me a culture vulture. So anyway, so Hong Kong was. I've not been there for ever since China took it over. It's lost its allure. But like one Fong is a place in mid levels where central where all the bars are. I don't drink. I'm a teetotaler. I don't smoke. But I would go there just with my friends. They would drink themselves silly. Back to Tokyo. So after work, you had to go to a bar with all your staff. Not all, my team. And these people, of course, when they're in the office, Kim-san, Deep-san, how are you? All are very polite, very respectful. So then they'll go to this bar and they drink themselves silly, men and women. And I'm drinking water. And then they are sloshed. It's 11 at night, it's midnight. And I say, guys, you're going to go to work tomorrow. And then they're slapping me on the back and all that stuff and hugging me and all. Next morning, they're back to Kim-san, how are you? So it's a drinking culture they have in Japan that's amazing.
well, you just reminded me. Somebody told me a story about there is a train in Tokyo that for every stop there is a different song played. I wonder if it's for the late night people to remember which place to get off the train.
It reminds me of the some of the stations in New York or also Moscow where they redo the entire station because it's under the museum or whatever. No, but in Tokyo, you have to remember one thing that when you're getting on the train and it's packed, it's absolutely packed, and there are so many hundreds of people on the platform. waiting to get in. So then there is an officer, a policeman, a security guy wearing gloves, who will ask you, do you want to go in the train or do you want to stay out? If you want to go in, he is going to push you and stuff you inside till the door is shut. Because the doors won't shut if someone's leg is sticking out.
Well, I wanted to introduce some contrast now. So we've talked about very busy places. One place I've been to quite a lot is Australia. I noticed that's one place you mentioned, and it's almost at the opposite end of the scale, isn't it? Because you actually
Yeah.
have to go and find people. uh,
Yeah. Melbourne, Sydney. I've been to Melbourne for a conference, and people are very Victorian, laid back, nice, polite. Uh, I was staying with this white man because it was a conference, AIDS conference. I'm an AIDS activist, HIV. So I was the guest put me up in his house, but the people are very gentle, very nice. The ambiance, the whole city is beautiful. I wouldn't mind living in Melbourne. But there are lots of Chinese who have migrated to Australia, or Chinese and their kids have been born in Australia and they grow up thinking like Australians, and they have Australian accents, but they are not treated as equals by white Australians, same as in America or in UK. Uh, my uncle has been in London as a Rolls for the past 40, 50 years, and there's still a huge amount of racism. There's racism in India. India is one of the most racist countries you can encounter in the world. We're very class conscious, skin color oriented. So anyway, Australia. Australia was very nice. I saw quite a few concerts while I was there. I was there for the conference, but still managed to take in quite a bit of the city. And
so you must have been to the Sydney Opera House then, if you like opera.
no, no, I never been to Sydney. Only to Melbourne. Okay, I want to go to Sydney, and of course, if I go to Sydney, I'll spend my entire time at the Opera House. But but Melbourne was very good. Uh, I was there for I think 10 days. Uh,
Mhm.
you don't get a complete flavor because this conference was an international conference. So you had people from Africa and Asia and America jostling over there. I had one negative experience at the conference where an Indian MP, is member of parliament, nearly assaulted me because of what I wrote about her in um, in the media. But that's nothing to do with Melbourne, so I don't want to get into it. But it was amusing. Like a circle grew around us of people, uh, and because she was infuriated with what I wrote. So unfortunately, I didn't spend enough time in Australia. I want to go back to Sydney, but get out of these big cities. Australia is a beautiful country from what I see in movies, and just like India is. And I spent all my life in cities like Bombay and LA and San Francisco, and never. There are parts of India I've never been to that I should go to. So the basic motto for your listeners is when you go to any country, anywhere in the world, avoid the big cities. So when people are planning to come to India, I say don't go to Bombay, don't go to Delhi. Get out because you will not get a flavor of the country if you just go to the big cities. Because in Bombay, in the circles that I'm in, you would think you're in New York. I went to Dubai and don't go to Dubai. Seriously, I went unfortunately when it was 40 degrees outside. I was living in a very fancy, air conditioned hotel. But as soon as you open the door, you are like sticking your head in a furnace. So pick the dates, months you travel. You don't go at peak season, peak tourism season anyway, because you will not get to see what you want to see. Hotels will be more expensive. So and travel and try to travel alone, not even with your wife or partner, because that's the way you will really get to see that city. Don't go in groups. Don't go on conducted tours. Avoid fancy, expensive hotels. I know I'm saying everything that I don't do myself, or for my guests who are corporate travelers. But the best way to see a country is, but read the travel books and familiarize yourself and time out and make your schedule before you get to the city. Buy your tickets, whether it's a ball game or a opera, it doesn't matter. So you're not going there and then going to the ticket counter and finding everything is sold out. And use LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn and find people to connect with in the city you're going to travel to. So I don't connect with people just because he or she is an AI or whatever. I connect because I want to go to that town. And LinkedIn is buy our premium service, and I refuse to. Don't you want a job? Don't you want to hire people? So why aren't you buying the premium service? I bought premium service for a short while, but it's of no use. So use LinkedIn to connect. And it's an amazing tool. Much better than Facebook or Instagram or whatever. We have elections going on in Bombay. So if you hear that loudspeaker, it's this traveling uh, advertisement for a candidate. Anyway,
Ah.
yeah, right.
So I wanted to ask you, as we reach the end of our time together today, I wanted to get a sense. Do you think, as a frequent traveller, there are hidden gems everywhere?
Oh, yeah, yeah. The hidden gems. I grew up, in Los Angeles. I was there for my college. The hidden gems in any city, in every city, you have to literally. That's why I love street photography, because street photography, I take my students to the hidden gems in every city, whether it's Venice or London or Mumbai or Hong Kong, and I have to know where those hidden gems are. See, I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. You have to open yourself to the world, even as you're living your life. So hidden gems are there, waiting to be discovered, and just connect with the local people. If there's a person in Bombay talking with the accent that I'm talking in, don't talk to him or her. You know, get the local guys. And Indians, the humble Indian worships a foreigner. Like in Hong Kong, we say white ghost, right? In India, we worship white skin. So, if you're a white man or a white woman, there's nothing you can do that is wrong. Though, of course, you find the occasional tourist who is a really obnoxious person you don't want to talk to. But Indians will help you, guide you, and not ask you for money. If an Indian asks you for money, avoid him because he's a tout who just wants to rip you off. So don't talk to those guys. Ask the local chai wala, the pan bidi wala, see, directions. When I landed in Paris for the first time, I came by train. No, I came by ferry from England. And I took the train to Paris and got off at Gare du Nord. And I got out of the station. And I knew that my hotel, that time I was a student, I was staying in a very crappy hotel just next to Gare du Nord. So I asked the shopkeeper at the station, where is this hotel? Of course, I asked in English. Even though I knew some French then, he gave me the wrong direction. Then I asked another woman, a shopkeeper, in English, where this hotel was. I knew it is right there. And she said, no, go there. And then I spoke in my broken French. Oh, yeah, that's the building there, right there. So in France, they're very chauvinistic. If you speak in English, in India, everyone knows English. Broken English, even this cabbie, the scooter wala, bus conductor, they know a smattering of English. So you're never lost if you speak in English in India.
So finally, I just wanted to get your feeling on how do you think travel is developing, and what would you like to see happening in the next few years on the travel scene?
You can travel anywhere in the world, but I would say Africa. My focus right now is Africa, Latin America, because if you see the map, if you can put the map up, I have no yellow dots anywhere in Africa. I've never been to Africa, never been to Latin America. So, travel as a whole, avoid Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, traveling at that time because tickets are not available, hotels are full. So, travel is exploding right now. India is adding 50, 100 new airports within India. A lot of African countries are getting new airports. Cruise ships. Have you been on a cruise ship ever?
I've no friends who've been on them.
No. So
Uh,
I went on my first and only cruise ship in Miami when I first landed in America. Okay, there are tickets you can buy. Like when I first went to America, I bought a visa known as VUSA, VUSA. I don't know if they still have it, where you can fly anywhere in America from New York to San Francisco. Otherwise, the ticket is $500, $1,000 coach economy. But for $25, you can fly. So I bought this book of coupons. I flew to Miami, got on a ship cruise, a 1 day cruise to Bahamas, and the average age on the ship was 85. So I had all these elderly women hitting on me, you know, what are you doing in the evening? Do you want to go to the disco, the bar? Yeah. And so I had a whale of a time. I want to take, but see, the problem with cruise ships are what happened during COVID, right? Where this entire ship of 3,000 people or 10,000 people, there was one person on the entire ship infected with COVID, and they refused to allow the ship to dock at any port. So these guys were stuck on the high seas for 30 days. So that's the only thing I'm scared about cruise ships because, there's no COVID now, not as much as earlier. But I think future for travel is amazing. It doesn't matter what aspect of travel you are in, get into travel. One is you get discounted stays in hotels and whatnot, but you get to travel, and it's the best way to meet people anywhere in the world. People are so sweet anywhere. Even Americans are sweet, when you get to know them. Uh, you know, I've not spent enough time. Even China. China is a lovely country. Okay, you got to hear this. When I went to China for the first time from America, and we went to Shanghai, and then I came back from Shanghai to San Francisco. San Francisco, in comparison to Shanghai, looks like a dump. Like Betty Davis said, no, water dump. So, we have the world's biggest slum in Mumbai. It's called Dharavi. So, when I came back to San Francisco after visiting Shanghai, San Francisco, in comparison to Shanghai, looked like Dharavi, large slum, homeless people, drug addicts on streets, whatnot. So, China, except for the politics, is an amazing country. They have more high speed trains within China than anywhere in the world put together. In California, we've been trying to get high speed for the last 35 years, but we don't have the political will. So there's no high speed in China, no high speed in India, but China, no high speed in USA, no high speed trains in India. But China is amazing the network they have. Absolutely stunning. So except for politics and human rights and being Muslim, being a Falun Gong in China, uh, is China is overtaking USA in military prowess, already in production, engineering, AI. Uh, but it's sad, really sad. I would never live in China, not even for a day. You have to buy a new phone. Listen, travel advice. If you're going to China, leave your phone home and buy a new phone which has no data on it because they will take your phone for a moment and they'll load onto it some spy software. you know so you want to go to China with a brand new phone. you know uh, that's the only thing I can say about China. Anyway,
Well, covered a heck of a lot. So, yeah, thank you for spending time with me today.
oh yeah, thank you, Alex, for the opportunity. My problem is I talk a lot. So, I appreciate what you do, Alex, because people need to get the proper perspective on traveling, and just as you've done this with me today, you have guests and hosts on other uh, segments, and people need to travel a lot more than they actually do. And that, by the way, we're talking about sustainability and travel. Seriously, I travel. You won't believe this after hearing this entire spiel. I don't get on a plane. The last time I got onto the plane was 7 years ago. Okay, it's because of sustainability. I haven't driven a car in 20 years, more than 20 years. Seriously, I don't use air conditioning in spite of living in India, in Bombay. So traveling in system. People fly to Rio for the COP, the environmental conference, on planes and stay in fancy five-star hotels. I would never go to an environmental conference by plane because or go by get it on went by boat. But traveling that way is very, 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 very bad on the environment. So try to travel less. Sorry, but plan your travels properly. Okay, travel around the city you live in. That's the most sustainable way of living. But when you do travel, uh, squeeze them in. Like, I'm going to go to Cannes for the film festival, then I'm going to go to Milan for the fashion week, and so squeeze it all in the same trip, so you don't have too many plane flights. Take the train whenever you can. Train is a phenomenal way of traveling and undiscovered. Sorry, a Eurorail ticket in can be more expensive than a plane ticket. You have to balance all that stuff together. But travel, don't stay at home.
Yeah, good advice.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.